Hey everybody, it's Mike. Welcome back to the studio. So today I'm going to address another one of the big questions I get, and that is how to shoot with a telephoto lens, or what are some of the problems that you'll run into when shooting with a telephoto lens. Now, I don't know if I'm going to get through all the questions today in this video, but let's see what we can do. So the first thing is, when shooting with a telephoto lens over any other lens that you're shooting with, it's very important that you keep it still. That means that you either hold the camera and the lens correctly, or you use a tripod, monopod, you set it on some sort of a hard surface, like a rock or a fence post or something like that, and then you take your pictures. Now, here's how I do a lot of my hand holding. First of all, I take the camera and the lens and I rest the foot of the lens, if it has one, in the palm of my hands. That way it leaves my fingers available to zoom. I can also roll back a little bit further and I can do any manual focusing that I want to do. Then I will hold like this, hold the camera like this, and then put it up to my face like that. Now, that's how I find works the best. I see a lot of people out there, and I don't know why they do it. I've asked a few and they sort of shrug, that will move the foot up to the top and then they hold on to the lens like this. I find this very awkward to do. I find that I'm putting more weight on the focus ring and it's not as easy to focus. And the other thing is that when it's up top, I cannot use my distance scale. And I don't know why they do it. I've seen some people like that, which I can understand a bit more because you can see your distance scale. But for me, it just makes sense to keep the foot at the bottom and then rest it on the palm of your hand. Now, if you're using a tripod, if you're using a monopod, pretty much keep it as still as possible. But remember, if you're using a long telephoto lens, that even if you move it just the slightest bit, that subject is going to move dramatically in your image. I've been focused on a bird and I will reposition myself and all of a sudden the bird disappears completely from my viewfinder and I haven't moved the camera very much. Why? Because you're shooting over such distances that even the smallest move here makes a dramatic move there. So that's the first thing. Now, little side note, and I've addressed this in another video that I talk about tripods and monopods. But the biggest problem I have where I shoot is the wind. And no matter what I do with the wind, whether I use a good tripod with a weight on it, whether I use a monopod, whether I use a window mount in my vehicle, whether I hand hold it, is dealing with the wind. And honestly, the only way that I have found to be able to deal with the wind of everything that I've tried is to use a faster shutter speed. And in order to get a faster shutter speed, I use a higher ISO. Now, this is where it's very important that you know how your camera's ISO works. So if your camera maxes out about 800 ISO for a reasonably good image where it's not too noisy, don't go past that point. If you have a camera that you can shoot at 3200 ISO without it being too noisy, then go up to that point. But you need to know how your camera does. And every camera is different, and every camera has different effects and looks and so on and so forth. Even if they're the same cameras, I've seen two cameras side by side from the same manufacturer, the same model, and when we took pictures with them, one at one ISO was slightly darker than the other one at the identical ISO. So please understand, get to know your camera. Get to understand how your camera responds. Now, once you've got the camera and the lens still, once you've used the highest ISO that you can use to get you the fastest shutter speed, what are some of the issues that people come to me with? Well, one of the first issues that people come to me with is there's something in between me and my subject. And when I take the picture, it's blurry. Yep, there's something between you and your subject. When you're using a longer telephoto, you're shooting over a longer distance generally, and you have to watch for all of those things. A piece of grass sticking up, a branch, a leaf, many different things can get between you and your subject. And if that happens, and if it's down on your subject, you're going to notice an issue. Even if it's out of focus, it's still going to affect the look of your subject. So be very, very aware of what's between you and what you're shooting. It may mean if you're standing here and you're about to take a picture of a bird and you notice there's a branch in it away, it may mean you have to move over a little bit. Keep that in mind. I don't like to always look through the camera to see what's in my way, because if the lens is focused on the subject and it's something closer to you, you may not even see it when you're taking the picture, but you'll definitely notice it in the final image. So what I always do is I take a look at my subject, I see if there's anything between me and the subject, I position myself so I have a clear line of sight to that subject, then I will take the picture. So that's the first thing. The next thing, and this is a big one, I get people coming in with amazing lenses, amazing cameras, and they think that they're broken because they have a problem with their image. And what is that problem? Well, with telephoto lenses, they're designed to bring subjects in closer. So we obviously shoot from a further distance from the subject. As you're shooting from a further distance, you start to notice things like heat waves. You start to notice things like raindrops or snow, and that starts to affect the quality of your image. I see it all the time with myself in the spring when I go out and the ground is really cold and the air has warmed up. You'll get the cold waves coming off of the ground. You'll get the warmer waves up top. You'll get little ripples in the atmosphere. And when you take the picture, your subject looks out of focus, even though it's in focus. I'll see people shooting through snow, and it's not snowing that hard. They think they can take the picture. They take the picture, they look at the images, and they're all blurry. Why? Because even if it's a light snowstorm, through a longer distance, you're shooting through a lot more snow. Likewise with rain, people will come in and say, but it wasn't raining that hard. Well, no, it wasn't raining that hard, but between you and the subject, which was a mile away, there's a lot of raindrops coming down. Likewise with fog, and right now in southern Alberta with our smoke, the smoke is another thing that does it. So you have to be aware of what the atmosphere is like. How do I get around it? Well, the first way is, in the springtime, I try to go early in the day before the air warms up. Or I try to go out late at night when the air has cooled down a bit. I see a lot less trouble with the shots when I do that than anything. If shooting through snow and rain and you want to get the shot, the only thing I can tell you is, 1, take a lot of pictures, and 2, get as close as you can safely to your subject to take the pictures. Now, obviously, if you're shooting a grizzly bear, don't get out of your vehicle and try walking up close to it because you're trying to get a better picture, because that's not smart. But if you can get a little bit closer, if you can take a couple extra steps, try doing that. The less distance, the less stuff that's going to affect the look of your pictures. So until next time, get out there, take some amazing pictures, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.